Alrighty everyone, welcome back. We are now getting closer to the release date of the Ahsoka Tano series, which by the way is all set and ready to debut by this August. The reason why I talk about this show so much is that it really does kind of show us a light at the end of the tunnel, given that this is going to be the first project that Kathleen Kennedy had zero influence on a creative level, and Dave Filoni got to write every single episode through and through, where Jon Favreau only helped out a little bit here and there. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support, and without further ado, let's get right into the subject. Now, what's really great about Jon Favreau, and what I like about him so much, not just because of how he is a creative person when it comes to the Star Wars universe. I love what he did with Mando Season 2 specifically, and everything related to his outlook on Star Wars and his plan to really bring Legends back to life. But what I like about him the most is how he keeps fans in the loop. He lately has been very honest with the fans. He's talking about what's been going on with Mando Season 3 and what could have been, stuff around those lines. And what's even all the more intriguing about this is exactly what Jon Favreau had to say specifically about Kathleen Kennedy, The Mandalorian Season 3, the Backlash, all these different things that happened last month of April, alright? And exactly what really happened between himself, Dave Filoni, as well as the Disney executives at the time. Now, with both Jon and Dave preparing to announce new shows and a host of new Star Wars movies by the end of this year for Disney, recently Favreau had something of importance to deliver to the entire fandom. Now, in a recent interview, Favreau delivered the following to the fan base. So with the third season of The Mandalorian, one of the biggest issues that we had were creative differences with those like Kathy at the time and some of the directors. Much of this had to do with Mr. Morrison and his role as Boba Fett. We were told directly to not include Boba Fett upon Kathy's request, and that it was in her mind a scenario that would have broke the season if Boba returned, coming out of the fan division after the Book of Boba Fett debuted. The main reason why Kennedy did not want Boba to return as well was in fear that the lack of interest that we had noticed with his own series would carry over into the third season of Mando. But to myself and Dave, that didn't matter because we were writing a more violent and hardcore version of Boba Fett, straight from the Legends material. So guys, before I get to the next thing that Jon states, he is elaborating here that he was going to give us the bounty hunter that we all know and love as Boba Fett from the Star Wars Legends material, from the original trilogy. Stuff like that was going to be a big deal. And it's just unfortunate that we got what we got in Mando Season 3, where we had a lack of Boba Fett. I know a lot of you guys out there have been reaching out and saying that that's what you were expecting episode by episode, waiting for his appearance. And look, even Morrison was saying the same exact thing. He was saying that he was sitting by the phone every single day, waiting for that phone call to arrive by Lucasfilm, specifically by Kathy for Mando Season 3, and he never got the call. What's even worse, though, is that Kathy specifically instructed Jon and Dave to not even give him a phone call or an email about any kind of possibility of his return into Mando Season 3 to prevent any kind of false hope. So this really makes one to question, what's happening with Boba Fett and his appearances in future Star Wars material. Well, there's good news to that side, and we're going to get to that in just a second. Now, the thing about Jon Favreau here, though, is that he's making it obviously very clear that he had a lot of problems with Kathleen Kennedy really making this, happen. The lack of Boba Fett, excluding him from Mando Season 3. Look, we've had Boba in, Mando Season 2 and in his own show. A lot of people were expecting him in the third season to really kind of kickstart his character again after we did not really see him, ever since, quite a while ago, like last year. So it really is something of interest, and it really just goes to show you that there were a lot of creative differences on Jon and Dave's end, and how Kathleen Kennedy was just getting in the way. Moving on. Now, Jon goes on to elaborate further. Fans were going to love it about what we were doing, and Kathy felt that we were dehumanizing the character and that it was too over the top for his show. for this show. She didn't want a violent take on Boba Fett or him being a straight-out bounty hunter, and that really let us down because that's what we wanted to do, and it was painful not giving Mr. Morrison the call because he was waiting and waiting to return. He was going to have 2 big scenes in the finale, one where he comes to Din and Bo-Katan's aid, and another of which where he was going to face the troopers on Mandalore in an epic battle, using his starfighter. Going into Mando 4, though, now, we have some pretty solid ideas of where we want to take Boba, given that we are on our own now, and just trying to get the story going. I'm revising, or was revising, the script until a couple of weeks ago, and it's a blast so far. I just cannot wait to fulfill him. So, what he's talking about here, what he's alluding to, why he said up until a couple of weeks ago, is that it has a lot to do with the writer's strike. Alright, well, we all know that the writer's strike is a big deal right now. It's kind of creating some setbacks on various, shows out there, not just Star Wars, but a lot of other big-name movies and TV shows out there. It's just creating a setback globally. And Andor Season 2 so far is, progressing. I know Tony Gilroy kind of got into, a little thing there, but what's interesting about this is what Jon Favreau has to say about Boba Fett and his return into Mando Season 4 and how he just kind of teased that they got some really crazy and wild ideas that's going to fulfill the character in that season, and that they are indeed on their own now. So he directly just told us that they are on their own now with Mando 4, Kathy is not intervening, and this is directly connected to what we have been addressing, that Kathleen Kennedy is not involved on a creative scale anymore, only with Skeleton Crew and the Acolyte to be very specific. So she's got no say in how Ahsoka Season 1 and 2 are going to work, Mando 4, and any other show that John, Dave, and Tony Gilroy are currently creating. So there's another thing on top of this too that I think a lot of fans need to come to realize is that Jon Favreau loves Boba Fett. He is a big fan of the character as much as he is with Luke Skywalker. He wanted to respect the character in the Book of Boba, but Kathleen Kennedy got in the way, executive producer Robert Rodriguez got in the way of that as well. Kathy let him have a lot of control over that show, on top of John and Dave, believe it or not, and it wasn't really up to them. So, John has addressed this, even Tamora has addressed this multiple times, that he wanted the old Boba Fett. He wanted the old Boba Fett in the show, and that's what they did not get. And what he's referring to is the hardcore bounty hunter, the violent take on Boba Fett, of how he's a ruthless character, pretty much a villain to a sense, where he's just doing his own business to get the job done. And what we saw in the Book of Boba Fett was just something that was not so appealing to the fans that were expecting that side of Boba Fett is all. I think that at the end of the day, he's gonna get his, call by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, because John's already teasing it here about what he's gonna do in Mando Season 4, so I'm happy for him, and a lot of things are currently changing. So, I think Ahsoka is going to be the deal breaker. It depends on whether it's going to be well accepted or not accepted. It's going to be a make or break in this sense. So, anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.